Hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Friday, the 10th day of October, 2025. And we continue to see a lot of movement towards the release of the hostages and the implementation of Donald Trump's peace plan. In fact, our top story from the Jerusalem Post says families informed that preparations are actually underway to retrieve the hostages as early as Sunday instead of waiting till Monday or Tuesday. So that would be very, very wonderful if that takes place. And then we're told from Israel National News that Trump is going to hold a Gaza summit in Egypt with global leaders. When he goes to the Middle East, he's supposed to be at the Knesset also speaking there. Sky News tells us that Hamas official thanks Donald Trump for the ceasefire deal, but tells us Tony Blair is not welcome to run Gaza. That's actually good news. Let's move around to Russia now. We haven't heard from Vlad in a while. From the Jerusalem Post, Putin says global arms nuclear race is already on. We're not surprised by that, and we don't want to forget Russia is at the top of nations that'll be front and center at the end of the age, according to the Bible. So we have to keep our eye on them. And then a very interesting story here from Fox News. The Pentagon agrees to host Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots at an Idaho air base. Hmm. All right, we'll get into that too. So lots of stories. In fact, we've got five headlines we're doing for you. Literally, I could have done another five and another five after that. So many things are happening right now. So we're giving you the latest. We think this will be helpful. So let's get right to them. This is the one that we're really excited about. Families informed that preparations are underway to retrieve the hostages as early as Sunday via the Jerusalem Post. Soroka and Barzilai hospitals are on emergency alert due to concerns about the medical condition of the hostages. Hostage families were informed that preparations are underway to retrieve their loved ones as early as Sunday, according to Friday evening reports from KAN, that's one of the news stations, and N12. Preparations are also being made for the release of all the remaining living hostages at once, reports said. The hospitals are on emergency alert due to concerns about the medical condition, as we said, of the hostages. And so after 2 years, you can imagine the shape that they're in. Anyway, this comes after Israel announced that the ceasefire took effect today, Friday at noon. The Israeli government ratified the deal in a vote late Thursday night. After the deal was announced early Thursday morning, U.S. President Donald Trump told hostage families at a phone call that all the captives would be released on Monday, and it looks like it's even going to be before that. The 20 living hostages are expected to be released within 72 hours of the deal taking effect. In fact, there's another story from Israel today. If they don't release them in 72 hours, the deal is off. And so Hamas is getting the show on the road, it seems. All hostages living and deceased to be returned as quickly as possible is the next heading here. Additionally, Arab reports indicate that Hamas has begun collecting the remains of deceased hostages to return to Israel. A joint Israeli, U.S., Qatar, Egyptian task force will be established to locate the remains of any deceased hostages whose locations are unknown, with the goal of returning all remains within 72 hours of the living hostages' release. Since the ceasefire took effect, the IDF announced it has begun positioning its soldiers along the agreed-upon deployment lines in Gaza. The IDF spokesman said the troops have deployed upon these points to provide operational defense and control along the Gaza Strip. All right, this is great news, isn't it? Can't imagine how the families feel after 2 years of 2 entire years of agony. Tonight in Israel's the Shabbat, the Sabbath, and can you imagine how the rejoicing is going on in these families? Their Sabbath meal for the last 2 years, they haven't had a family member there, a husband, a brother, a son, whoever it might be, to eat with them, to be with them, as they're so used to, having every single Friday night. Um, and it's just incredible. It's finally coming to pass. It's amazing. We wondered if this day was ever going to get here, and it looks like it's going to happen within the next, not too many hours. Right now, it's about what 2:30 or so, 2 p.m. Friday afternoon here on the West Coast in California. And so, if it happens Sunday morning, that would be very quickly. That's less than 48 hours. That's right, Friday. Yeah, that's incredible. So let's pray it all comes to pass. All right, from Israel National News, Donald Trump sure gets around, doesn't he? Trump to host Gaza summit in Egypt with global leaders. This next week, he's going to support his peace plan. He's expected to convene this summit focused on Gaza during his upcoming visit to Egypt. This is Axios. Axios reporting on Friday, citing four sources familiar with the matter. The summit is aimed at bolstering international support for his Gaza peace plan and it comes as key agreements on post-war governance, security, and reconstruction remain unsolved. That's what we talked about today. You've got post-war governance, security, reconstruction. They're all unresolved. Also, was not forget Hamas being need to disarm totally and turn in all their weapons. So we've got all those things still to come. Sources indicated that Egyptian President al-Sisi is organizing the summit and has extended invitations to several European and Arab leaders or foreign country ministers from Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Qatar, the UAE, Jordan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Indonesia are all expected to attend. That'd be quite a summit. Netanyahu, of course, is not expected to participate at this time, according to U.S. official quoted by Axios. He is never invited to these for obvious reasons. American officials confirmed Trump's attendance at the summit, though the White House declined to comment. So he is making the rounds to get his deal solidified. Boy, he's in perpetual motion, isn't he? Never a dull moment. All right, this one comes from Sky News. Hamas officials thanks Donald Trump for a ceasefire deal, but tells him that Tony Blair is not welcome. Dr. Massam Nahand says Hamas would be willing to step aside for a Palestinian body to govern a post-war Gaza. Now, why not? If they did, they would be taking over that governing body probably within 6 months to a year, but that they would remain on the ground and would not be disarmed. Remain on the ground and not be disarmed. That's very troubling if they're going to try and keep pushing that. Remember what Netanyahu said, they're going to be disarmed one way or another, the easy way or the hard way? Well, we got some pushback here. We'll see how official this person is as a spokesman. He thanked President Trump for his role in securing a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. In an exclusive interview with Sky News, a lead world news presenter, Yalda Hakim, senior Hamas official Dr. Bassem Naim, also warned that former UK Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair would not be welcome in any post-war role for Gaza. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a first phase of a peace deal brokered by the U.S. president, with a ceasefire taking effect today on Friday, as we've been mentioning. Dr. Naim said the ceasefire would not have been possible without President Trump, but insisted he needed to continue to apply pressure to Israel to stick to the agreement. Well, that's not really going to be the problem. It's going to be Hamas. He added that Hamas would be willing to step aside for a Palestinian body to govern a post-war Gaza, but that they would remain on the ground and would not be disarmed. That is going to cause huge problems if that's the case. He said in the interview, without the personal interference of President Trump in this case, I don't think it would have happened to have reached the end of the war. Interference, I guess, is the word he used. His English probably at the best here. It's not the interference of Trump. It's the basically him injecting himself into this to get the job done. Well, we're glad to hear Tony Blair won't be in the mix. He wouldn't have been helpful anyway. So let's hope he's going to be on the outside looking in. All right, let's move to Russia now. We haven't talked about Putin in a couple of days, and let's not forget their center stage, last day's Bible prophecy events. Putin says global nuclear arms race is already on. This is via the Jerusalem Post. This comes as Putin said that Russia supported Trump's Gaza plan. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Moscow was already engaged in a nuclear arms race with major world powers, including the United States. Asked if Russia would be ready to test a nuclear weapon if the U.S. did, Putin said that some countries were considering tests of such weapons and that Russia would be ready to conduct a test as well if others did. He added that Russia is developing new weapons of deterrence, meaning that if the U.S. did not want to voluntarily extend a key arms control treaty, it would not be critical for Russia. Russia's nuclear deterrence capabilities were higher than anywhere else in the world, Putin said. The Kremlin chief also said that Moscow supports Trump's Gaza initiative and that if it succeeded, it would be nothing short of an historic event. Well, thank you, Vladimir Putin. All right, now lest we forget, Russia is at the forefront of future biblical events. In our book, 25 Signs Are Near the End, Signs 9 through 11, we explain it in some detail, who the players are and what they'll be doing and who's not in, you've got who's being invaded, Israel, who are the invading armies led by Russia, Iran, and Turkey, who are sitting on the sidelines and complaining, which would be the Gulf states, and then those that aren't in at all, including Egypt and the United States of America. So we talk about that. Again, Educating Our World is the website under the heading of Bible Prophecy. 25 Signs Are Near the End. Then we have a much more thorough book called the Ezekiel 38-39 Invasion, where we go into great detail with so many issues there. And that's a free download also from our website. So please take advantage of it. Keep yourself informed of what's going on because so much is taking place. Because, like we said, if the hostages are returned, hopefully as early as Sunday, we're moving into a second phase. And let me tell you something, the second phase isn't going to be pretty. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to have a lot of roadblocks, a lot of problems, and we'll keep you informed how all that's working with last days Bible prophecy. Now, this last story is really interesting. From Fox News, the Pentagon agrees to host the Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots at an Idaho air base. U.S. agrees to host Qatari Emir Air Force facility at Mountain Home Air Force Base for F-15 pilot training. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced on Friday that the Pentagon has agreed to host a new Qatari Emiri Air Force facility in Idaho, saying that the nation has played a core part in securing the Gaza peace deal. Now, let's not forget, the U.S. has a very strategic base there in Qatar. They've just signed a long-term agreement for defense. In other words, if someone attacks Qatar, the U.S. will respond just like NATO, like they're a NATO country. And so they really, Qatar has got a strategic position there. They're also filthy wealthy here. Do you know they're worth something like 1.8 trillion with a T, $1.8 trillion dollars, we're told. And so they've been inserting themselves in so much that's going on. So anyway, he made the announcement during an enhanced honor cordon arrival ceremony at the Pentagon for Qatar's Minister of Defense, Saud bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. Today, we're announcing a letter of acceptance in building a Qatari Amiri Air Force facility at the Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho, Hegseth said. The new base will host Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots, enabling joint training operations with U.S. forces. The location will enhance our combined training, increase lethality, and interoperability, Hegseth said. He added the project reflects the depth of the U.S.-Qatar defense partnership and thanked Qatar for its involvement in recent diplomatic efforts. Now, one of the reasons they're doing this, obviously, is not only they need to secure that geographic location, like we have a base in Turkey, we also have one in Qatar, but also, especially for Iran, if Iran tries to do any more funny business, Qatar is a very strategic location there, and we need that base to respond with any future Iranian funny business. He went on to say, "You've been a core part of what has unfolded in Gaza, a historic moment." Said Hegseth, "We are grateful for the strong partnership that we have, the way you support our troops at Al Udeid, that's their base there, the American base there in Qatar. Your Excellency, the line of communication we've had together." So we're thankful for that. So Qatar has been endearing itself to Trump and the U.S. leadership, obviously. Lest we forget, they have been and are a huge sponsor of Hamas terrorism. Remember, where did the Hamas leaders live all these years? They lived in Qatar, Doha, Qatar, and back and forth there in Turkey. So they've been given the red carpet treatment there, the welcome. So it's a very odd situation here. Anyway, they're this huge sponsor of Hamas terrorism. We'll see what happens in the future if they throw them out or things become more settled down. We just don't know. Again, there's so many unknowns like we've talked about here. That's why we've got to do these every day and just bring up with the latest. And literally, so many stories are coming our way. I literally could have done 4 episodes of breaking news with 5 stories each. So much is happening. And so it's never a dull moment here. We thank you for watching, for telling others about the program, to again take advantage of our website, Educating Our World, with all our free resources. Everything's free, 65 books under 11 different biblical topics, where we thoroughly deal with issues of what we believe as Christians, why we believe it, how to live it, including Christian living, the Bible and science, the afterlife, the unseen world, the 3 members of the Trinity, God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, Bible prophecy, of course, and other subjects. So again, please take advantage of it and tell others about it. Plus, too, I should mention this more often. We have an app also, EOW with Don Stewart on both the app stores, the Android one and the Apple store. That free download if you want to watch on an app and follow what we do. A lot of people do that. And so please take advantage of that too. It's all free. EOW with Don Stewart in both the app stores. All right. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with another edition of Breaking News unless something huge breaks today. Until that time, as always, may the Lord richly bless.